right, folks. This is episode 1 of Basement Banter. I'm here with, looks like Forrest Gump from when he's running across the country. It's Kyle Killinger. Wanted to have Kyle on as my first guest. He's done big things the last 4 years. Brought a lot of attention to a serious matter. Kyle, you want to explain what you've done the last 4 years and the stats behind this?
Yeah. First, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. But I was in a bar about 5 years ago, doing my normal thing, drinking after work, and my friend said that I needed to meet this guy that was walking across the country. He was there at the bar I was at, and when he got back, he was on a phone call at the time, but he said, you have to talk to him when he gets back. Mm-hmm. And I gave my friend a weird look, and I'm like, why would somebody walk across the country? They'd have to be crazy. And they're like, no, when you talk to him, you'll understand. And he came back in, he sat down right next to me, and the first words he said to me were, are you a Marine? I kind of gave him a puzzled look, and I'm like, yeah. Are you? He's like, yeah, I am. And so we shook hands, and we just started, talking about just everything back in the Marine Corps days. Mm-hmm. And I was like, my friend said that you're walking across the country. I was like, it makes sense now, because only Marines that crazy. Yeah. He kind of laughed, and he goes, yeah, I am. He goes, let me tell you why. And he's like, do you know that 22 American veterans commit suicide every 24 hours except for PTSD? And I was like, no, I didn't. I had no clue. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I was almost that statistic. I was almost one of the 22. And his nephew had actually saved his life. He was in his room. He was going to kill himself. And he asked God to give him a sign. And his nephew happened to just walk in and ask him just a simple question. And he just took that as a sign that he still needed to be here, and I'm glad he is. But he ended up walking across the country, and I met him, and I followed his story online the whole time. And we exchanged phone calls and texted quite a bit, and I told him that I wanted to do something like what he did, but on like a smaller scale. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it for a couple of days, and I told him I was off work the first week of July every year for our company shutdown. Mm-hmm. And I told him he knew that I like to run and stuff, so he's like, why don't you incorporate a run with the time you're off? I said, I could probably do that, and we sat down, and he's like, how long do you think you can run in that amount of time? So I sat down, and I did some math and stuff, and I called him back, and I was like, I can probably do about 300 miles in the time, and it was funny, I could hear his jaw drop through the phone. He's like, you called me crazy for wanting to walk across the country, but you're wanting to run 300 miles in 9 days. And I said, yeah, I think I can do that, and it's for a good cause. It means a lot to me because I've lost at least 10 guys that I was in the military with to suicide.
That's crazy, man.
Because PTSD it is, and so that lit a fire in me to do that. So the first year, which was 2016, I ran from Pentwater, Michigan, back to Columbus in 9 days. 2017, I ran from Canton, Ohio, actually the steps of the NFL Hall of Fame, back to Columbus in 8 days. 2018, I ran from Huntsville, Alabama, back to Columbus, Indiana in 5 days. And to date, that's still the hardest one because it was 5 days.
So what, you averaging, 60 miles a day then?
That year, it was like 75 to 80 miles a day. That was like the average. Yeah, the most I did was 81, I think. But
I'm sweating walking upstairs, and you're doing 80 miles a day.
I've been running roughly for about 20 years, and it's still intimidating to run that far.
Oh yeah,
I'll never get used to that. But this year, 2019, I ran from Bowling Green, Missouri, back to Columbus, and I did it in I think it was 8 days this year. Mm-hmm. I bumped it back up. I'm already planning on scouting my routes for next year. I've got 2 possible routes that I'm looking at.
Are there certain spots that you like to start at? And then obviously you in here in Columbus. I know 1 year was at East.
Yep, I've done it at the first year I ended at the American Legion. Mm-hmm. The second year was right across the street at Texas Roadhouse. Mm-hmm. Last year was at East, and then this year was at the Zwanzig's Brewery here in town. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I'm looking at where those start points and finish points are going to be for next year. There's nothing really special about where I start. There's nothing really special about 300 miles. It's just how far when I first thought of it, that's probably the maximum distance I could probably run in that amount of time.
we ought to send Colin Kaepernick a picture of you standing there on the Football Hall of Fame in one of these shirts, just to maybe open his eyes a little bit, since he wants to be what he is.
Yeah.
So I've known you probably for, Lord, probably 20 years at least.
Oh, at least.
Growing up in the trailer park, me and Jonathan, Jeremy, Derek, Jason, Trevin, man, I can't even think of everybody. And I remember back then you ran, and when you were going to school, you'd run to school from the trailer park. I don't know how many miles that was every day.
4 miles each way.
So that was 8 miles a day there.
Yep.
As a kid you were running, so that's pretty impressive. And I'm like sweating walking down the hill to get me a Polar Pop at Circle K in Taylorsville. So when this came up and you met this guy, does this guy have a page? Does he keep it quiet, or?
He's pretty quiet now. He's dealing with a lot of family stuff. I just talked to him like about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's keeping pretty quiet because he's got a lot of family issues going on. He's dealing with that, but he's talking about doing another walk. He's writing a book about the first walk.
Awesome.
I'm really looking forward to that when he's done with that. Actually, last year, 2018, when I started, I met a guy in Huntsville, Alabama, who was talking about doing a walk.
Mm-hmm.
And that first day that I ran, which is, I ran right in front of his house. He was like, "Hey, stop by my house and I'll buy you lunch." And you and your driver, I'll buy you guys lunch. And I was like, okay. So I literally, I couldn't have got any closer to his house, and he was out there waiting on me. So he took me to lunch, and he told me that he was retired from the Army. He wanted to do a walk across the country, and I was like, I know a guy, that did that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, he's going to be at my finish line actually this year. He's like, well, I might drive up to Columbus, Indiana, and so you finish too. And I didn't really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually did show up at the finish line, and I introduced him. They talked together for a couple months. They threw ideas around about doing it together.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, it's the guy that I met originally.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it. They had a hurricane where he lived, so he was dealing with all that, some family stuff. So he couldn't do it. But so actually, Van is the guy I met in Alabama. He's currently in Kentucky. I just went and saw him. He was in Evansville last week. So I went and saw him, and it's really cool that those people have come into my life through this, because of this. Because before this, I was in a pretty bad spot in my life, and it came into my life at probably the right time.
I think back to guys that were in Vietnam and Korea and even the Gulf War and stuff. You didn't hear anything about PTSD. When I was a kid, I wouldn't know what that meant for the life of me, and I don't know if anybody ever talked about it. I don't know if it was something that was kept quiet, or if it was just, complete ignorance to it. You know what I mean? Oh, they're just crazy, or there's, or people just didn't talk about it. I don't know, but man, I see so much of it now, and when you initially did it, I'm like 22 a day. I mean, that's insane. And I did some checking and stuff myself, man, and I see what some of these guys go through. I'd heard stories in the past. People was in Vietnam, they would, hear helicopters and stuff, and they would, flip out or hit the ground, stuff like that. I mean,
Fireworks.
Yeah, fireworks. Things of that nature. And you think back to it now, and that's what that was.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's no secret. Everything that happened with my wife, and there's things that she that bothers her,
right,
and stuff.
Yep.
and I've seen that, and it's tough, man. And I can just imagine those guys that's been overseas or even not overseas, man, even National Guard, anything. I mean, you can come across stuff that
especially in your line of work too.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of stuff, man.
I think when we were growing up, it wasn't talked about. But if the rare occasion it would come up, it was like they call it shell shock, and it was. I wouldn't say it was probably looked down upon, but it was definitely I would say it was kind of swept under the rug. That person's got something wrong with them. And I was like, no. Now it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with them.
Right.
The things they had to deal with that give you the right to do what we do every day.
Yeah, and I've got one close friend. I won't mention his name because I hadn't talked to him before the podcast, but he served, and he was over in Afghanistan, and he was a combat medic, and he talked to me about a few things that happened over there and stuff that he saw and things. And I asked him, I said, does it bother you to talk to me about it? I said, if so, he said, some people it does.
Yep.
To me, it helps.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, I can talk to he said, I can't talk to everybody about it, but, certain people I can. So that made me feel good. That was several years ago when he, first got back.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, it's definitely a great thing that you're doing. I know you have a Facebook page, 300 Miles, right? He's my brother.
Yep.
Is there a website or anything else that you can go to?
It's also 300 Miles because he's my brother.org.
Okay. And I know I've seen you at the library on occasion. You guys have meetings and stuff there, is that right?
Yep. About once a month.
And I seen right now you got a GoFundMe started for your run for next year, where depending on the amount of money raised is what you're going to do with your hair or your beard and so on and so forth.
Yep.
You want to walk us through that?
Yeah. So, just to get some startup expenses covered for the run for next year, I decided that I've been growing my hair out since the first year I ran 300 miles. So it's been 4 years. I was like, I want to do something to raise money. It's hard to be creative and come up with your own stuff. So I was like, well, I can cut my hair and I'm going to donate it regardless. I might as well just do it for a good cause. So I sat down with the board and told them about it, and they're like, hey, you can have different tiers, for different amounts of money you raise, what you're going to do. So we decided on, if we raise $500, I want to trim it just enough to donate it. Mm-hmm. If we raise $1,000, I'll get like a normal, just a normal haircut, like I used to have, I guess. Mm-hmm. But then make it interesting. If we raise $1,500, I'll shave my beard off and I'll get a high and tie it like I had in the Marine Corps. Uh-oh. And I've been clean shaven once in the past 4 years. And if we raise $2,000, make it even more interesting, I'll have a mullet.
$2,000. $2,000. You guys hear that? Mississippi mud flap, Kentucky waterfall, Tennessee top hat, the Camaro cut, $2,000.
Yep.
He might even put lines in the side of it. I don't know.
I've got this isn't on the flyer officially, but if I raise over 2,000, I've got another something I'll go above and beyond. I'll have the mullet, but I'll have something else to go with it.
So. Curly perm, AC Slater.
Maybe.
So, when you run, you typically got somebody that follows you, right?
Yep. And you're usually within a few miles of me at all times.
And I'm assuming definitely water, Gatorade, or whatever you prefer. I don't know what you drink, but you take donations on stuff like that. Do you do all cash, or how's that work, man?
We do all of it. If someone wants to donate a case or two of water, whatever, I have a set amount that I need for every time I do run. It varies on how far it is that year, because it's always over a little bit over 300 miles. It's not exactly 300.
Right.
So that I always factor in extra miles just in case an emergency happens. I have to stop for a day, and I can still hit my goal of 300. But yeah, we do cash, checks, online like PayPal and stuff like that. But if somebody wants to donate monetary stuff like, shoes, whatever, I have a list of everything that I need. So we take it that way too.
I know that you had koozies this year.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome T-shirts. I got one on right now. Matter of fact, you had bands on the
wristbands. Yep.
Wristbands. I know I kept one of those in my office forever. It was red and blue. People can get on the website and buy the T-shirts still. Are you out of T-shirts now?
I'm picking up my last order of shirts this week, but we're going to start. I have a couple people designing the shirts for next year, but we're going to get those done super early. So hopefully by the beginning of the year we can start getting those rolling. So, but I'm almost out of the shirts for this year. So I mean, if you want one, you can see if I got any in the right size, and I'll let you know. But
we got one to the legend Donnie Baker this year.
Yep.
Including a koozie.
Yep. I got one. I gave one to Aaron Lewis this past weekend too. and I had him sign one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I seen where his tickets are going on sale. He's going to the Brown County Music Center for acoustic show. I'm gonna look into maybe tomorrow morning getting tickets for that. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but
I know it's an acoustic show. That's awesome.
I seen him one time acoustic show up at the Murat probably 8 years ago, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I seen him the last show I seen him wasn't acoustic, but it was at Belterra. And it was awesome. I've seen him, probably one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Honestly. So on the little lighter subject, obviously seen you on Facebook. You got to do something that I'd say a lot of people envy, especially if they have any knowledge of music, especially metal. You got to see Metallica in San Francisco with the was it Philharmonic?
The San Francisco Symphony.
Or the Symphony, yeah.
Yep.
And you guys were pretty close, right?
So yeah, when they announced that they were doing the S&M2, that Symphony Metallica, they did. The first one was in 1999, and I was 12 years old then. Really wasn't into that kind of stuff yet.
Yeah.
But they announced that they were doing S&M2, and I've been a diehard Metallica fan since I was probably 14. I would say, about the age I got into it. But I wanted to see how much tickets were. I help out part-time at Guitar City here in town. And Brian, the owner there, he's almost as big of a fan as I am. And he's like, let me know when they go on sale. We'll see how much they are. And I was sitting at work one morning, and right before the meeting started, and it dawned on me that, tickets are on sale. So I pulled out my phone real quick and seen how much they were. And the cheapest one I could find, I think, was around $400 at the time. I'm like, that's expensive.
Yeah.
That's really expensive. The cheapest ones, too. So I took a screenshot of it just as a kind of a joke, because it's $400 for a concert. I sent it to Brian, and a couple hours later he texted me back. He goes, how much are better seats? I'm like, what? So I got back on there and I scrolled down to the more expensive tickets and better looking seats, and he goes, we're gonna go. I was like, whatever. So I went into work, help him out that night, and he's like, pull that up. So I was like, all right. So I pulled him up and handed him my phone, and he walks away, and I was installing some security cameras for him, and he comes back and he hands me my phone and he goes, I'll make you a deal. He goes, if you pay for the airfare and the hotel, I'll pay for the concert tickets. I was like, deal.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I bought us two tickets. I'm like, sweet. And at this point, it was just, there was only one show. So this was back in, probably 7 or 8 months before the show even, whenever the show was.
Metallica always sets their stuff.
Yeah.
Their last show here, man.
It was a year in advance.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I remember that. And so I booked the flights and I booked the hotel and stuff. And the time comes when, they had problems with the scalpers, I guess, or bots buying all the tickets and trying to resell them for 10 times face value. It was ridiculous. So they added a second show. It was supposed to be just for the Metallica club members because they got kind of screwed out of their chances of buying tickets early. So we ended up, time comes, we ended up flying out there, and we ended up spending I think 8 or 9 days out there. But we got there the day before the show, and we found out they were recording it. And I was like, man, we should try to get on that movie because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity for us. And he's like, that would be awesome. I don't know how we could get on there. I was like, I bet if we wore something just crazy, we could probably get on the movie. And he's like, I'll wear whatever you can think of. And I was like, all right. So I thought about it for a while, and I was like, pink tuxedo T-shirts. That catches everybody's eye, And
you're not going to see many of those at the Metallica
no,
show.
there was actually quite a bit of tuxedo T-shirts. No pink ones.
Right.
They were all black, black and white. But so when we were in line, we got there probably 5 hours before the doors opened because we knew it was going to be, it was sold out, packed. First show in the New Chase Center. Awesome building though.
Is that where the Warriors play?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the first event they had in that new building.
Sweet.
The offices weren't even done yet. That's how new it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We got lost after the show that night, and we were just wandering around the offices, and they were still doing drywall and putting outlets in it, so it was cool. But yeah, for that show we were I think like the 8th row on the first incline. So we had amazing seats, and I had the time of my life. And there were people to our right and like up one row that were like in tuxedo, and his wife was in a really like probably a $5,000 dress,
Wow.
fur coat.
Yeah.
And they were just rocking out. It was awesome. It was like everything I'd hoped it was. And then after the show, Brian was like, I wonder if there's gonna be any tickets for the Sunday show. I'm like, maybe, because there was a few at Will Call when we went for that Friday show. So I was like, let's go back on Sunday just to see if there's anything at Will Call. Okay. So we showed up probably 8 hours before the show started on Sunday, and just went to Will Call, and we were like, hey, do you have any tickets available? And they're like, no, but keep an eye on Ticketmaster. Whatever they show is what we have.
Mm-hmm.
So we sat down right there close to the ticket, or the Will Call, and got on Ticketmaster and kept refreshing it for about a half hour, and 2 tickets popped up. They were on nosebleed seats. I was like, he's like, do you want them? I was like, well, we can. If we don't go to the show, it's fine. We already went to the first one.
Right.
And so we waited for about another 15, 20 minutes or so, and then 2 front row tickets came up. He's like, do you want these? I was like, I can't pay you for these, He's like, well, you can work it off, work at the shop. I was like, if you're willing. I was like, I'm down to go. So he bought 2 front row tickets the day of the show. I honestly don't remember exactly how much he paid for them, but I know it wasn't cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we went back to the hotel. Mm-hmm. We got cleaned up and changed into our pink tuxedo T-shirts again, and we went back, and we were still like the 3rd or 4th person in line. We got in, and it was like the first night was amazing, but the second night it was like even 1,000 times better. It was the exact same set list, so same show and everything.
Right.
But they walked in front of us twice. They high-fived us. Rob came off the stage during 2 songs, and he gave us a high five once, and he hugged Brian one time. Yeah, wow. And it was the best experience concert-wise of my life.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I can't remember what year it was. It was Death Magnetic Tour.
Here in Indy?
Here in Indy.
2009.
I went to that one.
Yep.
Shout out Justin Arnhold. He was in the fan club, got us early access, and we were eye level with the stage. We didn't get standing room only because 1, we didn't want to mosh, and 2, we didn't ever found each other after one of us left to go to the bathroom. So, but it's definitely probably one of the top 5 concerts I'd ever been to.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd seen him too. Was that show?
Was it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, same with me. And Gojira and Lamb of God were the 2 opening acts, and both of them, I mean, I never really listened to them. I'd heard of Lamb of God in the past and stuff. Heard, listened to a few of their songs, but they really impressed me too.
Yeah.
Just their drumming ability was amazing.
Yeah.
So you've seen Aaron Lewis here recently. You've seen Metallica. Any other shows, good shows that you've seen?
It's funny. I went to a bunch of shows last year, and I was like, I think 2019 I'm gonna calm it down on concerts because it gets expensive after a while.
Yeah,
And I probably went to more this year than I did last year. I've seen, I saw the Who earlier this year. And
That's
it was
cool.
And I had pavilion seats. And it was a phenomenal show. I'm not a huge Who fan, but it was an awesome show.
And they're getting up there too.
Yeah.
In age.
Yeah, I saw Slipknot. I saw Alice in Chains, which is another one of my top 5 favorites probably. And my friend actually, he sent me his pit ticket, or not his pit ticket. He was right in front of the pit. Mm-hmm. He sent me his ticket, and because he didn't go, so I had 2 tickets for it, And I was 1 row from the pit. So I got down there and I got to hear, because they opened up for Korn. I'm not a huge Korn fan, so I actually gave him the ticket to my other buddy when Alice in Chains was done. So I went out on the lawn because he was a huge Korn fan.
Right.
And but yeah, I've seen a bunch this year. Besides, Metallica was my favorite by far, but I've not been to a bad show this year either.
I think, I don't know if it was this year or last year, but I haven't gone to the last show I went to outside of with Nikki was Aaron Lewis, and I took her to see Justin Timberlake twice.
Mm-hmm.
And I listen to all styles of music. I'm not a huge fan, but she's Like the way you are with Metallica is the way she is with Justin
Yeah.
Timberlake. Like she's still got her binders from high school with NSYNC pictures in it, you know. And I took her to Nashville, Tennessee, because at the time he was only going to do like 6 or 8 shows, and Nashville was the closest. And so we went down there and went to the show, and he does put on an excellent show. I mean, I'll give it to him. That dude, he's got more moves than played worms. Like, he don't stop.
Yep.
And towards the end, Chris Stapleton came out.
Oh, really?
And they did Tennessee Whiskey, and they did Say Something, and one other song. I can't remember what it was, which I thought was pretty awesome. And then, of course, once we went to that and we come back, then like a week, 2 weeks later, he announces he's going to do a full tour. So then I got our tickets to Indy too. So,
nice.
But it wasn't near as good as Nashville.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. Not keep going back to Metallica, but when they filmed it, and it was in theaters for one day, so I went up to the no, I went up to the IMAX up in Noblesville. That was the closest place I could get to it, and I took me and 2 friends went, my best friend, and we went and saw it. And I'd already seen the show, obviously, so I was just looking for us the whole time, and I counted 11 times we're in the movie.
Nice.
Yeah, it was like.
Are they going to release it digital or Blu-ray, 4K or something?
Yeah, it probably. I would say probably by the end of the year or so.
I think I got the Death Magnetic DVD when it came out. It's in there somewhere, I think. What would you say? Top 5 concerts of all time that you've seen.
That I've seen.
What do you think?
That's tough, man. I would say, this S&M 2, Night 2, when I was front row was hands down the best. But number 2, probably the first rock concert I ever went to. I went and saw Linkin Park in 2007.
Chester.
Yep. I luckily got to see them about 5 or 6 times. And every time I saw them, I'm good.
Good?
Yeah, thank you. Every time I've seen them, though, they put on one of the best shows. He sounds just like he does on the album. The energy is just amazing. I'll say Metallica, Linkin Park, Rob Zombie puts on a phenomenal show. Ozzy, when he plays anything, but when he played with Zakk Wylde,
Black Sabbath.
Yeah, it was insane. And then Alice in Chains. The first time I ever saw Alice in Chains, well, I would take that back. The second time, the first time I was too drunk to remember it. I remember I passed out on the lawn. I was probably 21 or 22 back then. But the second time I saw him at a place up in Fort Wayne, and it was like a great big old theater. So I was like really up high, and they sounded amazing. I wish I could have got to see him with Lane.
Yeah, I was gonna say I assume you probably never got to see him with Lane. I was young when he passed away.
Yeah, me too.
So, and you're younger than I am, so.
And then Chris Cornell. That's another one that was just ridiculously insane. Like,
did you get to see him?
I got to see him solo, and I got to see him with Audio Slave once. And a guy at work had a ticket for the Soundgarden show right before he died, and he's like, "You want it?" And I'm like, "No, I'll go next year." Like was a week or later or whatever, he passed away.
Yeah. Similar story. We go to Talladega. I'd been every year for like 8 or 9 years. I didn't get to go this last year, but the last year I went, we were just sitting at the hotel, and me and Oldham were talking. We got on there and we were looking at concerts in the area, and it was Soundgarden, and they were down in Alabama. It was like, I can't remember how far from it was, like probably 50 minutes or so. And he's like, "Man, we ought to go to this or whatever." I'm like, "No, there's no way," because we leave for the track at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Right. It's crazy. And I was like, "No, we can't go." And then, like you said, never got the chance. And then, I'll never understand why that happened. But I guess I don't understand any suicides. I mean, everybody's fighting their own battles. I get it. Like Robin Williams. I think about that. I was like, man, this guy always seemed like so happy, smiling, cutting up, laughing, joking.
Yep.
And then boom, all of a sudden you get the news. And Chris Cornell, man, I'd seen him on, do live shows like on YouTube and different places, do acoustic covers and stuff. Just seemed like just laid back, chilled guy,
Yeah.
It's crazy. Well, if I had to pick a top 5 concerts, I'd definitely say Kid Rock, probably my favorite of all time.
I almost went to him this year.
I wish I could have. It was marathon weekend, and
Yeah.
I was on call, so
Yep.
I had to strike out on that one. But I've seen him like 5 times. Awesome every time. Hank Jr. is phenomenal, even at his age. If you watch a Hank Jr. show and then you watch a Kid Rock show, you can see where Kid Rock looks up to him or idolizes him.
Yeah.
Like Hank will do the guitar, and then he'll sing, and then he'll do piano, and then he'll do drums, and then he'll do the fiddle. He'll play all these different instruments.
Yeah.
As he's moving around, and you go to Kid Rock show, he'll do the same thing. He'll sing, then he'll do piano, and then he'll do guitar. And it's cool because he does a lot like to people that that he looked up to growing up. Like he played Ted Nugent, Cat Scratch Fever on the guitar,
Nice.
and then he went and played other stuff, and then he even went to the turntables.
Nice.
And
That's
did,
cool.
did the old school rap stuff where he started.
Yeah.
Metallica was absolutely awesome when we seen them. I love that stage when it spun around.
Yep.
So you could see, each one of them play. And
Yep.
thought that was awesome. And then the big coffins that came down was
Yeah, that was really,
pretty
really
wicked,
cool.
wasn't it?
That's
Yeah.
still probably their best, like,
Stage.
stage set I've seen.
Another one, you're talking about the Who, going to see them. I got to see Bob Seger.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Last time at, I don't know what it's called now, Deer Creek.
Yeah, it's always Deer Creek.
But 70 years old, man, that he flat tore the stage up.
That's awesome.
And there was no intermission. I mean, he brought it, and he sounded just like he did on the album, man.
Yeah.
That he put out in the 70s. It was incredible. And man, 5th, I'd have to put it between Aaron Lewis and Jamie Johnson. I seen Jamie Johnson.
I really
one
want to see
time.
him.
Nikki got me tickets one year for my birthday, and we were like right up by the stage.
Nice.
And he sounds the exact same, live as he does on a CD. He's got that deep voice and that,
Yeah, I'm spoiled when it comes to concerts now. I want nothing but front row.
Yeah. I can't do the lawn much anymore.
I
Just
know.
like people bumping into you, and it's just
Yep.
like I don't like the crowd. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
You want to sit down, you want to be able to sit down, not get trampled.
Yeah, or somebody spilling beer or God knows what down
Yep.
the hill on you and everything else. So yeah, it's I miss some I don't.
Yeah.
I definitely don't miss leaving them because it sucks getting out of there.
It does.
The crowd is ridiculous, and you always got a handful of people that's fighting, always,
Yep.
every single time. So we talked a little bit before the podcast started about the Call of Duty, Modern Warfare. So you thinking now you're going to pick it up?
Yeah, actually, I saw the trailer on the way home today before I came over here. And that Metallica came on there, and it perked my ears up. So I looked at what it was, and I'm like, this looks pretty good, Because I figured, at first it'd be like every other Call of Duty, but no, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, they're saying 50 plus attachments per weapon.
Wow.
Instead of doing like a season pass, with maps, they're not going to do that anymore. They're going to do, I guess, seasons. I guess what like they do on Fortnite. I don't really play Fortnite, but
Yeah, me either.
where I guess you have a certain amount of time to unlock stuff, and then once that season's up, it goes into another one, and you can't get that, whatever.
Yeah.
So, you still streaming on Twitch?
I haven't for a while. I quit playing WoW. Beginning of the year. I finally broke down and bought a PlayStation.
Did you?
So I haven't had the last console I had was a PS2, and they were new. So I went, I skipped 2 consoles pretty much. But I've been playing I bought it specifically for God of War, and I haven't finished it yet. What I played of it is awesome, but I've been playing a lot of Apex Legends.
Yeah. I've never played the God of War series, but I've heard a ton of good things. The Last of Us. I don't know if you played it or not.
I've watched
good.
it and I want to play it.
I had it for PS3, and then they did a remaster for PS4. So I played it some. But
I don't get a lot of time to play. Right now, now it's getting colder, I'm gonna have more time. But I got a half marathon in November still.
It's gonna be chilly.
Yeah.
You doing Indy or?
Yeah. Monumental. Yeah.
Buddy of mine I work with. I think he's done the Monumental a couple times. But he said he really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
What's your PSN name? I don't know if I've got you added on there or not. I can't remember.
I think it's Kyle A. Killer. I think.
Okay. Well, mine's W. Kinman. Anybody else out there listening, if you want to add us, shoot us an invite. I'm sure I'm on vacation from now till November 5th, so I plan on playing at least 4 or 5 hours a day. So, I haven't streamed on Twitch in quite a while, but my Twitch streams Revolving Chaos.
Yeah.
So, if you see that on there, you'll know it's me. For whatever reason, the Facebook activation was removed from the PlayStation.
Yeah, I saw that.
You could connect it. I don't know why they did that, but they did. So somebody actually have to get on Twitch now in order to, watch you. So, have you, outside going and seeing the Metallica show in IMAX, have you seen new movies or anything?
No, I haven't for a while. I don't remember the last movie I went and saw, actually.
We went to see The Joker.
Was it good?
Opening weekend. It was awesome. Some people probably won't like it. It's not your typical superhero movie.
Right.
Matter of fact, there's no superhero in it.
Yeah.
I won't spoil it, but it's kind of like his back history and the reason he is the way he is.
Yeah.
And stuff. So, I always enjoy that type of stuff. I know a lot of people ran down like Rob Zombie's Halloween and stuff like that. Oh, you ruined it.
I liked them.
I thought they were awesome.
Yeah.
I like the fact of that, hey, this guy's just not, doing the things. I'm not saying what he's doing is right, but like this is what made him. This is what's triggered this guy. Type of thing. So I always enjoy stuff like that. I used to watch a ton of movies. As you see, I used to have tons. I sold like 400 and some of my DVDs.
Yeah, I remember when you first started working, that's what you'd buy.
Yep. And
back when DVDs were first getting big.
Yep. And I still have my very first DVD I ever bought. It was Beyond the Mat, wrestling documentary. Still have it to this day. Yeah, that Joker movie is definitely good. I would consider it more of a drama probably than an action movie.
Yeah. Who's your favorite Batman?
Oh man, probably Christian Bale.
Yeah.
I like that line of movies. I think
they were all good.
They were more what I feel Batman is, like more of the dark. My favorite movie of all time is The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And I mean, Heath Ledger did an incredible job.
Yep.
As a Joker. But Joaquin Phoenix, or however you say his name, if that dude don't win an Oscar this year, it's rigged, because he did amazing. Like,
nice.
The way he walked, the way he talked, his laugh, I mean, everything. You can just tell. Like,
I've heard good things about it. And I've heard it's definitely not one you want to take your kids to.
Yeah, definitely not. They even put a thing up on the door.
Really?
They went, saying, look, this is not your normal superhero movie. Don't take your kids, etc.
Yeah. And
they were right. I mean, there's not many movies that'll say, kids be all right. I mean, this one I wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's pretty graphic.
It's a movie. I'm sure things like that happen in the world still.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Like you see, without spoiling it, I mean, just seeing what he goes through and the way, like, his mom and just everything as a whole, you you almost feel bad for the guy, really.
Yeah, that's
I
what
mean,
I've heard,
even
yeah.
though he's,
Yeah.
he turns out he's evil, but you feel bad for him. It's like, this stuff kept pushing him and pushing him and pushing him.
Just how he adapted to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I know Zwanzig's is your spot, and they've done really well with you. Let you finish the 5K this year at the brewery, right?
Mm-hmm.
You still eating in there about once a week, like you used to, or you slow down?
I've slowed down quite a bit. I was in there when they first opened the brewery. That's when I first started going there a lot. Mm-hmm. And I was in there. I'd rather not say how often I was in there. I was in there almost every day after work. But I'm in there probably maybe once a week now.
Mm-hmm.
Just have a beer and then head out. But yeah, that's probably my favorite place to go in town. In my opinion, the best beer around. Then obviously the best pizza too.
Yeah, for sure, pizza.
Yeah.
I can't tell you the last time I had a drink alcohol. It's probably years.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and 450 North Brewing. Yeah, but I mean they're getting so big that
they can't keep up.
Right, they've even hired us up for security and stuff like the night before. They release stuff. I guess I don't know how it works. But I definitely love Zwanzig's breadsticks, pizza, calzones.
Yeah, and I think they probably have the best salads around too in town.
Really?
Yeah.
No, if it's healthy, I don't eat it. It's just nice.
Well, I put enough ranch on it to make it not healthy, so.
If it doesn't have sugar in it or carbs, I pretty much don't want it. It probably shouldn't be that way, but that's honest.
I eat my share of carbs and stuff during the summer. Don't worry.
You probably have to with as much as you're running, though.
I do.
I mean, that's.
I need to learn. I need to keep track of what I burn, and I'll be curious what I burn and what I put in.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not that dedicated to it.
When you start training, what would you say on average? You run a day, or do you run every other day, or how do you train?
It just depends. This is the first year I actually tracked my training,
mm-hmm.
and I put it up on the Facebook. I think it was. I don't remember exactly the length of time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't quote me on it. I think it was 3 months. I wanted to run 1,500 miles, and I broke it down to where it was 100 miles a week, so I could run it in 5 days if I wanted to, or if I wanted to stretch it out to 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
But I was running. I think it was 25 to 30 miles a day.
Man.
So I'd get up about 3 in the morning. I'd go to work because we have that big gymnasium out there, the sports complex they built for us, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when it's cold out. You don't have to be outside. It's great. There's a track and they've got tons of treadmills in there. But I would get up about 3 o'clock and go in there and run about 10, 15 miles before work. Go to work 8, 10, sometimes 12 hours a day. Just depends on how long the day was.
Yeah.
And then I'd run whatever I needed to hit my goal after work. And those made for long days.
Oh, yeah. And the Toyota, right?
Yep.
So it's hot.
Yep.
Hot in there. I know, I've heard Jonathan talk about it. It's rough.
Yep.
Man, I commend you for it. Because like I said, man, there was a point where I was training and I did a couple halves.
Yep.
First one I trained and it wasn't too bad. Boy, that second one, it's like I was in a
telling
car
you what,
crash. It hurt me bad, but I finished it.
Mill race this year was one of the worst halves I've ever ran in my life. It was so hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I did okay during the half marathon, but I'm not kidding, man. The second my foot hit the finish line, I stopped, which I know is dumb. I shouldn't stop, but I actually had to sit down because my stomach hurt so bad, and I spent almost 3 hours in the medical tent afterwards.
Man.
So I've been doing it for 20 plus years, and I still have bad days and make rookie mistakes.
And doing, like you said, dude, you'd already done your 300 miles too,
Yeah.
So
I used to take the first couple of years I took 6 months off, and then about 5 months of training, and then did the 300, then 6 months off again. But this year I'm doing a little different. I took 2 months off, and I'm gradually getting back into it instead of totally stopping for 6 months and then climb that mountain, getting back in the routine.
Right.
So now I'm still running right now probably 10, 15 miles a week just to keep my legs loose and try to keep the weight off. Because the 2 months that I did stop running, I gained 40 pounds. So I'm trying to shed that. And
amazing how quick it can come on.
And the older I get, the faster it piles on.
Yeah.
So I'm I'm not old by any means, but I can tell the difference.
I'll never forget Dr. Good. God love him. He's retired now, but I went in there and I was 29. And I'd put on a ton of weight, man. I was the biggest I ever been in my life. I was like 260 or something. Just a fat mess. And he come in and he's like, you ain't going to want to hear this. I'm like, what's that? And he goes, you're going to have to lose weight. He goes, you're getting close to 30. And he said, the older you get, the harder it is to come off. And he goes, you don't want to have to deal with the problems that'll come with it. And he helped me. I started out with medication, and the medication helped me lose some weight, and it got to the point where I could, I had more energy, and you can see that treadmill in there, man. I put so many miles on that thing, and went from that to running outside to, completing the goal of a half marathon, which I never thought I'd do.
Start somewhere, man.
I was 260 and got it all the way down to 185.
That's awesome.
So I'm about 220 now, which is getting about half of it back, but, I feel better, even though I don't run and exercise like I should. But so anything else going on? Anything else you want to talk about, like in regards to either the run or anything else outside of that, man, that you'd like to get out there?
When I run, I use 95% of the time I listen to music, but this year, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 months before my run, my buddy Jared, he runs the Texas Roadhouse here in town. He's awesome. Him and his wife are awesome people. He's like, hey, do you ever listen to audiobooks when you run? I was like, no. And he's like, I got one you should listen to. He's like, you'll like it. And I'm like, what is it? He's like, it's a book called Can't Hurt Me. He's like, it's about a Navy SEAL. You'll love it. I'm like,
Jocko?
Okay. No. David Goggins.
Okay.
So I really didn't think anything about it. And then while I was running this year, I wasn't bored with music, but it just wasn't, pumping me up. It wasn't keeping me going. It wasn't helping me clear my head. So I was like, what am I going to do? I was like, oh, that book. What was that name of that book? So I went through the text and found it, what it was called. So I downloaded it on Audible, and I've listened to it 5 times since July.
Nice. That
book's changed my life.
Can't Hurt You is what it's called?
It's called Can't Hurt Me.
Or Can't Hurt Me.
By David Goggins. And don't go get the actual book. Listen to the audiobook because it's totally different. Because
Does he narrate it?
On the audiobook, no. The narrator will narrate a chapter, but after the chapter's over, they do kind of like a podcast like this where they dive into that chapter and talk about it and dig really deep into it. And it talks about how he grew up and all the things he went through growing up. I'm definitely not going to spoil it, but I thought I had I didn't think I had a bad life at all. But, you kind of feel sorry for yourself at some points in your life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And compared to this guy, like, I had the best life you could ever have. Like, he had nothing, came from pretty much nothing. What little I will spoil about, like, his dad almost literally killed him, beating him to death. Dang. And he goes on to develop a learning disability, stutter and everything. But as he gets older, he cheats his whole way through school because he had a learning disability, just couldn't do it. But he decided he wanted to join the Air Force when he was in high school, got his act together, joined the Air Force, got out, gained about 200 pounds. He was up to, I can't remember, he was over 300 pounds. It was like three something, I can't remember. But he was working for Ecolab, third shift, spraying for roaches in Indianapolis.
He's from Indy?
Well, no, he's from Buffalo, New York.
Oh, okay.
But when his mom and dad split, she was originally from Brazil, Indiana. So they moved back to Brazil, and as he got older, he moved to Indy. But he was working third shift for Ecolab and spraying for bugs and stuff at restaurants. He went home one day and heard a documentary on Navy SEALs. I think it was Class 135. I'm pretty sure that's the main one that they show about. But so he sat and watched it, the whole thing, and he's like, I want to do that, So he called up every recruiter, and they laughed at him because he was so overweight, Yeah. He found one recruiter that was like, all right, come in, I'll talk to you about it. And when he went in, he had to get weighed, and there was a chart, because he saw how much he weighed, and there was a chart, the maximum allowed was like 275 or something. So he had to lose 106 pounds in 3 months.
I'm saying 275, probably solid too.
Yeah.
I'd imagine, because there's probably a lot of physical stuff to it.
Yeah. So he signed up. But for what program he was in, he only had 3 months to do it. So he had to pass the ASVAB with a learning disability and lose 106 pounds, and he did. And he spent years in the Navy SEALs, and did all this other kind of training. It's just, and everything after, like when he got out, he ran and still runs ultra marathons, like 100, 200 mile runs. I just saw on his Facebook the other day, a couple weeks ago, he was doing a 240 mile race, and I'm like, I run 300 miles over the course of like a week or so, give or take. This guy ran 240 miles in like 3 days.
Wow.
It's just, he holds the world record for pull-ups in 24 hours, and it's just, from what he's went through and stuff, like, it's just, it changed my life. Like, and like I've said, I've listened to it probably five or six times since July, and it's a really long. It's like 13 and a half hours, but it's awesome. I recommend everybody listen to it. It's like, I think it's like $11 on Audible or something. If you want to listen to it, message me. I'll give you my info.
I'm sure you probably got a library card, don't you?
Yeah.
You gotta download Hoopla on your phone and Libby, and I'll check once we're done. I'll look and see if I can find it on there. But you can get 8 like audiobooks a month.
Yeah.
On there, and it's just like checking them out with your library card. You have to like put your library card number in there, and good thing is you get it for 30 days or whatever, and if you get done with it, you can send it back early. If you don't, like, start listening to it and something happens, you can't get through it, it automatically returns. So there's no fees or nothing like that. So that's pretty cool. Something to keep in mind. I know they do get some new books, and there's some older ones on there. But I'll definitely check that book out. And that just goes to show you, man, one person believed in him.
Yeah.
The other ones laughed at him, basically, like, dude, you're a fat mess, basically. And then that guy's like, all right, here's the deal. And he hit it.
It's funny because, like, he cusses a lot in the book, but he's like, when I say my dad beat me to death, or, beat me, it doesn't get the point across, He beat the, what out of him. And he's like, he doesn't, and he cusses, but it's not like unnecessary words,
Right.
It helps, like, paint the picture of what he went through. And I told my mom about it. My mom's, super religious, like, your mom is. And I was like, if you can just look past that, just listen to the story, and I had her listen to the first couple chapters, and she's like, that's insane. What little she listened to, like, that's insane what he's went through,
It's funny how certain words can be adjectives that that put the emphasis behind it. To me, there's a difference between you watch a stand-up comedian and he wants to drop the F-bomb every other word just because that's how he talks,
right? And
and it's not even a serious matter. It's just compared to where somebody uses it to, like, look, this is like I was literally near death.
Yeah.
They're it's. To me, there's a difference.
It's pretty cool because, like, throughout the whole book, he doesn't really talk about religion or anything at all. And then at the end, and he's like, people ask me, because I cuss all the time, if I'm religious or do I believe in God? He goes, yeah, I believe in God. He goes, I'm not here to judge you if you don't. I'm like, it's cool because the whole book is just amazing. And then the last chapter, like, when I started the last chapter, I'm like, I don't know how this book can get any better. Yeah. And that last chapter just, like, blows your mind about him and, like, where he stands with all that stuff. Not just, like, not like political stuff at all, and nothing like that. But it's just, like, where he stands with himself. And I'm like, the world needs more of those kind of people, more understanding on all levels, It's, but yeah, I recommend everybody listen to that book at least once.
I'll mark that down right now. Matter of fact,
because
I've had hurt me.
Yeah, I've had a couple. I put it on Facebook, a couple times. People listen to it or whatever, and I was like, and I'll tell whoever's listening, like, if you can't afford it, message me. I will give you my login information for Audible, and you can listen to it for free, because it's worth listening to at least once. And I had one of my buddies listen to it from Alabama, and he's like, dude, that's legit. It's I can't even put words into how awesome it is. Yeah.
And book wise, probably the last two books, physical books I read Dave Ramsey Total Money Makeover, which anybody that's got me on Facebook knows I'll share about at least one of his videos a week. Whether they like them or not, I'll keep sharing them because it makes sense, and he speaks to where, he speaks hillbilly.
Yeah.
That's the way I always put it, where everybody can understand it. And the Bible. I've read, I went through the New Testament. I'd read it when I was a kid, and stuff, and then I went back and I read the whole New Testament. Proverbs and stuff, it's just that book alone, so much, wisdom, knowledge in that and stuff. It's hard for me to get through the Old Testament. I don't know why. I can't stay interested.
Yeah.
But audiobook wise, I listened to Killer Clown, and it was a thing on John Wayne Gacy, and talking about him and the murders and stuff in the 70s and 80s and stuff in Chicago, it was fairly interesting, pretty disturbing, really.
Yeah.
People didn't realize how much that guy did, and he was like rubbing elbows with the big wigs, he met Jimmy Carter and his wife, and he was like a head, I think, in the Democratic Party and things. It was, if you're into true crime or anything like bizarre like that, it was a long book, long audio book. But any certain podcasts you listen to on a regular basis?
Not really. I usually just listen to music, but I've been getting into more of David Goggins' stuff. And
does he have a podcast?
I don't know if he has a podcast, but he posts stuff once a week. Usually it's pretty brief, but I know he used to do a podcast. I don't know if he still does, but I think probably one of my favorite things he said in his entire book is motivation is crap, and it's people are like, what, but motivation's only good whenever the sun's shining, the bills are paid, stuff. What happens when they're not, and I like the book. And I've said it, I'll keep going back to it, but he talks about the book. He goes, this book is about my life, but I'm not the hero. He goes, you're the hero. Basically put your life situations and events, what you've been through, into this book. As I'm telling it, apply your life to it, And that's why I'm I love this book so much, because, I put what I've been through and stuff while he's talking, and it's wow, it's just... But I've been listening to a lot of his stuff more lately, and Jocko, a little bit of him, stuff like that. I'm trying to, bring better life into my people, or better people into my life too. Right. Instead of I want to be friends with everybody. I know everybody's not good for me, and it sucks because I want everybody to be good for me, and I want to be good for everybody, and it's just that's not the way the world works. Yeah. So have a better influence.
Yeah, and you're only as good as the people you're around.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It's truth, and I'll throw this out there. I talk to my dad, and anybody knows my dad knows that he's an addict, and he struggled. He did. I think he told me 24 years incarceration. I'm 34 right now, so 10 years of my life he's out, right? And he, he's 50 years old now. And I'm I asked him flat out, I was like, Dad, why now? Why now? What's making you, And he just said, anybody and everybody that I used to hang with, I just completely stay away from them. The places I went, stay away from them. Because he's I know if I go around them and they use, or it's there, I'm going to eventually use.
Exactly.
So I have to stay away from it. And I was like, you're only good as the company you keep. You know what I mean? And that's a perfect example. And I'm proud of him, man. He's working 12 hours a day at PMG and,
Good.
Staying clean, almost completed probation. Got to give him a shout out on that.
Everybody's got to start somewhere, man. Even if they are 50, you got to start somewhere, That's why I don't just go back to the book, never judge a scowl or a smile, because you never know. A person can smile at you and not care about you at all. But the person that's hard on you wants the best for you,
You're exactly right. I would rather be somebody blunt with me
Exactly.
than to blow smoke up my rear end. I really would.
Yep. I agree.
You know, that punch in the gut sometimes is what you need. You know, and but yeah, when we were going through some stuff, I never messed with podcast, and we cut cable for what was it? Probably about 9-10 months, and you know, I always got on YouTube. Every night I get on YouTube, and I watch a documentary, typically some old wrestling matches, or a documentary on old wrestlers, or, you know, just how things were back then compared to now and stuff.
Yeah.
And came across some podcast clips, and I'm like, man, I like it. So just did some research, and I had Apple. My first smartphone was a Motorola Droid X2, and it was the biggest piece of crap I ever owned in my life. It was so bad that I literally ended up going and buying an iPhone outright. And you know how that is, right? Because I was in a contract back then. You had to do it 2 years.
Yep.
So after that, I was like, you know, I'll never have an Android again because of that. And so, you know, there was the Apple Podcast, and I got on there and messed with it here and there, but I just didn't like the layout. So I got to looking, and I found an app called Pocket Cast, and it's the easiest thing. Like, you can, they got genres on there, or you can just search. And I'm hoping once I get 2 or 3 of these done to have it uploaded, and it'll be on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Pocket Casts and whatever Google's podcast system is and stuff. But man, there's so many good podcasts out there. You know, I listen to Dave Ramsey's podcast, Chris Hogan's, Ben Shapiro, Joe Rogan.
Oh yeah.
You know, I don't agree with everything Joe Rogan says,
Right.
but I like, and I want the model he has.
Right.
I mean, if you load up Joe Rogan, you'll see he'll have you know, like a neuroscientist on there one day, and then, you know, next day he may have Bernie Sanders, and then he'll have like Rob Zombie, you know, and then he'll have like, you know, some comedian I never heard of, you know, that's up and coming. You know, I just like how he doesn't go like one set thing. You know, it's not like all MMA fighters or you know, all politicians or all whatever. It's like
stuff,
you know, everybody's got their, you know, their story, and you know, like Ted Nugent was on there. Well, Ted Nugent and a lot of those guys are so totally opposite, you know.
Yeah.
But it's just cool how he doesn't.
I've seen a couple of his.
He don't judge. You know what I mean? Like, and they discuss a lot of stuff. You know, some stuff I'm interested in, some I'm not.
Yeah.
You know, but just tone it out if I'm not interested in.
I watched the one with him and Dr. Phil was pretty good.
Yeah, that was a good one. Something else too that there was another one that I watched of him that was really good. Did you watch the Rob Zombie one?
No, I didn't.
It's pretty interesting.
I watched the one with James Hetfield.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Speaking of him, I seen where they put in there he went back into rehab. I never knew that, you know, he had an issue with addiction or whatever.
It's probably 15, 16 years ago. Well, before Saint Anger came out, he went into rehab because that album took like 3 or 4 years to make because he went into rehab for I think 18 months or so. But yeah, I'm hoping that he's doing it right. I have no idea why he went to rehab. I'm assuming since they started making their own beer and their own whiskey,
it's
he kind of just fell off the wagon. I hope that's all it is. And I hope he gets back into it soon. But they said that he's doing fine. He's doing better. He's doing what he needs to do.
Good.
So, yeah, because they announced and then they announced that they were doing like 4 festivals next year. So, hoping he's going to be fine by then.
I'm glad that they, you know, stepped up like they did and said, notice, hey, dude, you need help.
Yeah.
Instead of like, you know, either pushing him, come on, we can do this, you know, and get him out there to make it where he gets worse. Or, you know, or saying, well, we're not going to put up with you and then try to get a new lead singer or something, because that's just not right, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, him and Lars started it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if my history's correct.
Yep.
And
pushing 40 years.
it was them two, Dave Mustaine and who's the other
Cliff
one?
Burton.
Cliff
was the original bass player.
Yeah.
He died before I was born.
It was the 80s, wasn't it?
86. Yeah, he died the year before I was born.
Man, I can't believe they've been around that long. I was born in 84.
Yeah.
I remember, Master of Puppets and stuff coming out when I was a kid.
That was my best
Ride the
friend.
Lightning.
My best friend Justin, he's the one who got me into Metallica. I listened to him a little bit when I was about 14 or so, and then he was like, "Here, you need to listen to this. Hand me Master of Puppets," and it was over after that. I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome."
I love Unforgiven's probably my favorite song. It's pretty popular, but
Yep.
Sanitarium, I really like that one too. You ever get a chance, watch. Matter of fact, I'll let you borrow it before you leave. It's on the West Memphis 3. Those kids that were charged with murder back in like the 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
They said they were satanic and murdered those 3 like 6 to 8-year-olds or something. And they did quite a bit of time and ended up getting overturned. But Metallica, there was a bunch of musicians. Eddie Vedder donated money, got him an attorney. It's a long documentary, but it's worth your time. It's interesting, criminal justice system, but going back through it, showing some of the stuff, But Metallica did a lot of the music in it, which was surprising, Back to podcasts, another good one. If you're into like true crime or anything like that, Crime Junkie.
Yeah.
I can't remember the chick that narrates it. She's from Indiana. I think she was like a news reporter in Indiana somewhere for a while, and she did a lot of reports on crime and stuff.
Yeah.
And she started a podcast, and it took off, so she quit doing that, and now she does the podcasting thing like full time. But
Nice.
they talk about a lot of cases from Indiana and stuff.
That's cool.
They did one on Lawrence Spear. So last week or 2 weeks ago. It was really good. And you can see, man, I got my list here. There's a ton of them.
That's
fun. And a lot of times if I'm traveling, like if I got to travel and do for work or something, I'll put one on, listen to that, or an audiobook.
Yep.
On top of the music, just kind of gives me options. So, well, man, I won't keep you. I'm sure you probably got work tomorrow, don't you?
Yep.
I appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully, this will be the first of many, and we'll have you back on closer to your run, and we'll talk about that. And if you don't care, I'll share your page links on the Basement Banter Facebook page.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so people can go check it out and read more about it if they're interested.
Definitely.
Get with me sometime, and maybe I'll go out and try to do a run with you. I'll probably get about 2 miles in before I die. But
you want to do 2 miles? We can do 2 miles. If you want to do 1, we can do 1.
I need that motivation.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, the opinions in this podcast are of mine and Kyle Killenser's. This is not in reflection of any department, agency, or business. This is simply me and him. So anybody interested in coming on the show, shoot me a message, either on the Basement Banner page, or if you got my cell, you can text me. I'd like to try to do this at least every couple of weeks or so. In the meantime, hang in there, stay strong, check out that book Kyle was telling you about, and I'll have another on a couple of